Hey, how are you? Good, I hope. If not, well, hopefully this video can make your day a little bit better. I'm doing okay, though the next video is taking much longer than I expected to make and probably won't be ready for at least a month or two still. Hopefully the wait will be worth it. In the meantime, however, I thought of starting a series of monthly videos heavily inspired by Karsten Rundquist's What I Watched This Month videos, where I instead talk about the games I played over the last month and maybe some other pieces of media that caught my eyes. I linked his channel in the description, so be sure to check him out after the video. He makes great film content. To kick things off, we have Left 4 Dead, the first one, although I did play the second one for a little bit as well. Mostly messing with mods, but you know, it counts. Due to its newer entry's iconic nature, I expected the original title to offer a somewhat less engaging experience that was then well refined in the sequel, explaining its popularity. But I was pleasantly surprised to find an extremely enjoyable and complete game. My only complaint would be that the campaign felt quite short, but the upgrade system make it extremely replayable, giving you a totally different experience not only from playthrough to playthrough, but level to level as well. Honestly, my favorite moment from that night has to be when my friends and I all got the incendiary bullets and fire healing upgrades in the same level, and there was fire everywhere. The survival mode is also an insane amount of fun. I stood up way later than I should have that night, always just saying, come on, one more, surely this time we'll get it. Constantly getting so close to that elusive gold medal. Discovering and evolving strategies with a friend while trash talking the NPCs for being clueless is just mwah. And the Left 4 Dead franchise deserves all the praise it gets for bringing us such moments. The next game I played after that was the Stanley Parable, Ultra Deluxe, or S.P.U.D for short, and it's kind of hard to talk about it without essentially spoiling two whole games. Just like with the Stanley Parable, the first one, the less you know going in, the better. So the little I can say, it managed to give both exactly what I expected and something so totally out of the blue I still can't believe the devs took that direction. It asks surprisingly serious questions and will leave you with a lot to think about the gaming industry and the behavior of players and developers alike. All through very funny and endearing stories starring the one and only Stanley, of course. So if you're a fan of meta-narratives and or want to cry at the mention of the name Jim by the end of it, I wholeheartedly recommend this game. Far Lone Sails is very straightforward, and I don't have much to say about it except it's good. Which could be a good or bad thing, depending on how you look at it. It's an interesting game for sure, and very much worth the money if the vibe speaks to you, but that's the thing. Lone Sails rides on its vibes, offering less substantial commentary or introspection than what its dried out seabed and decaying civilization initially left me expecting. Apart from some hints of anti-capitalism, the story doesn't really offer more than a beautiful setting. So, with it being a neat few hours of gameplay, how does it play? The main loop looks a little bit intimidating at first, but it really is easier than it looks, and once you get the hang of the floaty movement, navigating around your ship becomes second nature. This, combined with the low stakes for most of the game, makes for a very relaxing experience, to the point I wasn't sure if there was even a failure state until one set piece that does ask you to maintain a certain speed to clear it. Overall, the beautiful environments and music make Lone Sails a very chill game that light puzzles and resource management keep from becoming monotone. And despite everything I criticized about the little story we get, I have to admit that the ending did left me excited to play the next one. Celeste is the next game I played, and aware of all the acclaim it gets, I tried to keep my expectations tame and let it surprise me, which I'm very happy I did, because while it was a cute, heartfelt, and delightfully challenging game, it didn't blow me away either. If Far Lone Sail is straightforward in its gameplay with a vague story, Celeste is the total opposite, putting its story and themes in the forefront and letting the mechanics evolve and innovate on themselves throughout the game. I'd be lying if I said I didn't get emotional when I reached the top, and I think many people could benefit from playing this game. I find it ironic but also kind of genius that one of the best games about mental health out there is built around a genre known for being rage-inducing. I highly recommend playing Celeste, as well as watching the in-depth analysis by Transparency called Understanding Celeste, which I will also link in the description. So I have to admit, I picked up the Crooked Men entirely out of nostalgia. For some reason, Markiplier's Let's Play of it stuck with me for a long time, and I was wondering if it's as scary as I remembered it. The short answer is no. Alright, moving on. We have Love, Death, and Okay, I'm joking. It's not that bad. The long answer is still no, but I did have some fun with it, and the story is not all that bad. It's a shame that the scariest thing about it is the lack of autosave, because I found the puzzles and level design pretty engaging, and the atmosphere is actually pretty great. Funnily enough, I think it's the monster that drags it down. The sprite really isn't scary, and since he only appears in scripted event, it never feels like a real threat. The great sound design does most of the heavy lifting, but by the end of it, the same 2 or 3 screams really weren't cutting it. I think this game was translated from another language, so I won't criticize the dialogue too much, and while I think the story didn't quite stick the landing, it had a few interesting concepts, like ghosts catching on to people instead of places, and I actually quite liked the twist involving Paul at the end. I think overall the characters were well realized, except David. Me and a friend I was with at the time found some of his decisions or actions hilarious. Just as an example, he will sometimes be rude or even aggressive to someone, only to do a total 180 the very next line and apologize or show concern. Speaking of, playing this with a friend makes it 10 times more fun. We loved speculating about the story and constantly cracked jokes at the expense of David. It's definitely a highlight of my experience with the game, and probably what I'll remember it for now, instead of that one game with the creepy, smiling, twisted guy. This was actually the last non-live service game I played in May, so let's move on to the stuff. I watched Love, Death and Robot Season 3. While I think it's good, as always, Robert Valley's absence was definitely felt, and I was disappointed to discover he hadn't animated an episode this season. Just like when Season 2 came out, I wish there were more experimental episodes in both art style, direction, and medium. As of now, photorealistic 3D animation constitutes most Love, Death and Robot episodes, and while they are extremely impressive, they all look kind of the same, and I think a significant portion of these stories could benefit from a less traditional type of animation or art direction. I mean, it's no surprise that Jibaro instantly became my favorite. Jibaro? Hibaro? Maybe? I don't fucking know. Although it shares a lot with the others visually, it feels like an entirely different beast due to its unconventional use of the camera, insane soundscape, peculiar pacing, and tons of other things I probably didn't even pick up on. Another trend I noticed, especially once this season came out, was a strong focus on the military. It's not overwhelming by any means, taking up 7 of the 35 episodes so far, but they're already almost enough to be their own volume, and there's so many other things I could think of before what if military or mercenary stories when given the prompt Love, Death and Robot. What I'd love to see in the next volume is more robots, more love, and weirder episodes. You know, the kind that will leave me wondering what the hell I just watched. Of course, keep the dumb fun ones to balance in between the more serious content, and Can we please prove Jacob Getter wrong? Because unfortunately right now, he's kinda right. I read. It had been a while. Our power went out for 5 days, and I finally had a reason to open a book. So I finally read a manga I'd been putting off for almost a year, Junji Ito's Uzumaki. I liked it so much, I went ahead and bought and read Geo the very next day. You've heard it before, and you'll hear it again. Junji Ito is a master of his craft. I knew he wrote horror stories, but I wasn't aware of just how fun they were. Both mangas started out very unnerving and uncomfortable, but the more it went on, the crazier things became, and by the end, the concept has been brought to its limit. It really presents an idea and just runs with it, follows it through until it reaches its logical conclusion, as batshit crazy as it may be. These stories walk a very fine line between horror and comedy. It never feels like things have crossed the line into goofiness, and this is a true accomplishment considering where they take you. There's always this element of fear in the background, and as I read and learned more and more, it kind of got overshadowed by a sort of morbid fascination. I don't know if that's the intended experience, but it was mine, and I loved it. The third and last book I read for probably the next few weeks, until the second volume arrives, is Blame. I was inspired to read it because of the video essays on the game Naissance that kept mentioning it, and I was right to do so because it's right up my alley. The art is sublime, the story very intriguing, and the action exhilarating. I don't have much more to say. Maybe next month, once I've read volume 2, I'll keep you posted on whatever my opinions are, if that interests anyone. And if not, well, you're lost, because I will still talk about it. Maybe, probably, who knows. So there it is, my first video in a very long time. As I said, I'm gonna try to make this a monthly thing, but knowing me, who knows really when's the next time I'll be on here. I'm still working on the Eva video, and yes, it's an Eva video. You would know this if you follow me on Twitter, which you don't, because I have 0 followers. What are you doing? Get on here. I never use it. I'm gonna try to use it more. Otherwise, I'm almost done with the script, and hopefully editing is going to motivate me enough to finish it in about a month. After that, I have a ton of ideas for future videos. What's holding me back mostly is the inability to just sit down and work. I don't know, I might just have ADHD. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any thoughts, don't hesitate to share them in the comments. I greatly appreciate any kind of feedback. I hope you have a great rest of your night, afternoon, or morning, and I'll see you in the next one.